Intriguing new evidence reveals that Mary Magdalene is prophesied to return, in essence, to heal the planet of its many wars and imbalances. So who was Mary Magdalene, and why is she relevant to us today? First, it's essential we understand and reassess our struggle with femininity, as well as the divine feminine's fall from power these past 2,000 years. I have come across a story which is aching to be told, for a battle ensued after the crucifixion of the messianic Jesu, in what looks like a struggle for messianic power and leadership. This came between the disciples and from the leaders of Rome, as well as the leaders of Judea, and their takeover began with the story of Mary Magdalene. Religion was strategically changed by the institutions which were created around that most powerful position of all, the messianic throne. The scales tipped in favour of a male-dominated business of religion, for throughout history the divine feminine had been worshipped in every corner of the world. So what happened? What is it that led us to be dominated by such forces, which, as history shows us, has eclipsed the goddesses entirely, and the women with her, into near oblivion? So let us put this into perspective. The expected messianic king was from a long line of famous monarchs dating back to King David. Now let me ask you, what king takes no wife or bears no heirs? History has proven that it's the primary concern of all royals to keep their lineage alive and strong. One would imagine this to be the case especially for someone descending from such an important messianic line as Jesus. For a king without heirs was considered weak, and the future of his kingdom insecure at best. Yet this does bring up a question worth pondering on for more than just a moment. Does Jesus being married to Mary Magdalene in any way change his position as king, or reduce his position as Messiah or leader or teacher and healer in any way in our society? Does it make him any less divine, or his teachings any less potent? I would say not. In fact, if anything, it heals the age-old issue of priests within the Vatican clergy, of whether they're allowed to marry or not. How does marriage or children affect one's divinity? If Mary Magdalene was indeed the wife of the Master, then it calls into question our entire DNA thinking tank surrounding women, sex, and the church. Coming across such matters of thinking, I went deep into seclusion for a time to study arcane scripture and obscure books, by which I could decode the scandalous cryptic teachings and prophecies which were purposefully kept hidden from us all these years. These things are now revealed for the first time ever within my new book, Woman in Red. Evidence for Jesus having been married to Mary Magdalene is vast, so let us examine it for a moment. Taking into account the time, place and circumstance of ancient Judea, a woman would never have dared to have anointed or bathed a man's feet, unless it was her marriage that was taking place. It would have been against all codes of customs and all the laws and the faith and culture of that time period. Fresh evidence reveals that Jesus was seen to kiss Mary on the mouth often, as well as known to have loved her above all others. He talked and walked with her in private, yet more explosively, he accepted bridal rituals from her. If she were not his wife, Jesus would have been tried not as a pretender to the messianic throne, but as a man who had broken Judaic laws and destroyed a woman's chastity. So would any man of Jesus' messianic, royal and rabbinical station have kissed a woman on her mouth in public unless she was his wife? Again, we must ask ourselves, does this in any way belittle him or his messianic station? So what happened? How did the Romans alter the story of Mary Magdalene's position and life so entirely? And for what reasons did they go to such great lengths to destroy her name and her reputation, yet more importantly, her bloodline from the face of the earth? Why were millions of women burned to death for having red hair? No one's ever questioned it. Well, I'm going to right now. Could it possibly have been because the DNA of the Jewish people is said to be transferred from the mother to the child, and red hair was considered to be a sign of Mary Magdalene's lineage? Women were branded as witches if they had healing power in their hands. But why? Could it have been because it might have been a sign of Jesu's bloodline lineage? Mary Magdalene and Jesu's heirs and descendants would have been seen as the greatest threat to the powers that be, and to anyone claiming lineage of the messianic throne for themselves, people like Peter and Paul, and more especially Rome. In fact, in order to secure their positions, removal of the true heirs, and in fact any talk of them, would have been the first order of business, in order to satisfy the greed of those who craved that the power and the control would be forever in their hands. There are ancient prophecies wherein Mary Magdalene and the goddess with her are documented as having been forced into exile. Therein is described that when Magdalene and the divine feminine with her is restored, the world will heal from wars and from starvation. This is explosive information. If Mary were to be restored as the bride of Christ, the risen Jesu would no longer be separated from his bride. The goddess and divine feminine would finally be restored to the side of God, and peace on earth could reign. Well, all of that sounds very good to me. So what can be done? In 1995 to 1996, whilst I was living in India with my spiritual teacher, acclaimed Yogacharya award-winning Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, I discovered intriguing evidence about an ancient prophecy and secrets surrounding the life of Jesu, Mary Magdalene, and their extended family at large. Hence my book Woman in Red was conceived, and contained within is a story of their true lives for the first time, as well as profound revelations which have the power to shift humanity out of the dark ages to which we are rapidly heading. Be part of the revolution. The change begins with you. Please read my book Woman in Red, and all will be revealed.